Um, Ladies and gentlemen, are you? I'm not familiar with everybody. So, are you coming here regularly, or are you just your first time here? Oh, wonderful! You come from India only? Ah, from Delhi, and you're from Rajasthan, Jaipur or Pali? Ah, I'm not. I have never. Jodhpur, okay. Okay, wonderful. So what brings you to Hartford? You! Okay. All right, and these are your relatives? Oh, your parents? Fantastic. And that's your daughter. And you come here regularly? Wonderful. And your name? Mahavir. Hare Krishna. And your names? What is Ramesh? And? Indu. Upasna. Meena. Well, welcome. Thank you very, very much for coming. So, I assume you've been to an ISKCON center before?
Yes.
In Jaipur or?
In Delhi.
In Delhi? Yes, because you're from Delhi. So Delhi we have, but there's 13 ISKCON centers in Delhi, so you must see many of them. So our program here is similar to every ISKCON center. We sing kirtan, and then we read from scripture, from Shastra, and particularly we'll be reading from the Bhagavad Gita. And then I've been asked to give a little talk on the verse that we're reading today. And then we'll also have some time for discussion, for some reflections and questions and answers. So we'll begin with some kirtan. Generally we do kirtan with a special prayer that you may not be familiar with. It's a prayer by one of our acharyas. It's a prayer to Radha and Krishna. And I don't know if it is projected, not here. Anyway,
Yes.
You project it? Okay. So you can follow along. It's a very simple song. And we'll also chant and sing the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra as well. So then we'll read from our verse from Bhagavad Gita, our shloka today. And we'll take some time to talk about that. We'll have an arti now this is new. What is...
So we are decorating the altar, so right now deities are there.
Oh, okay. So that's a new arrangement. So we'll have an arti, and then we'll take prasadam together. We'll have a nice prasad program. So I hope you all enjoy our program today. And thank you very much, Mahavir, for bringing your family here. Hare Krishna. Vallabha Girivardhari Govijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vrajajandaranjana Yashodanandana Vrajajandaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamunadira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Jayo Vishnupada Paramahansa Parivajaka Shishi Chaitanya Goswami Shlesi Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Jai Shri Hare Krishna Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. We'll read from the Srimad Bhagavad Gita today. Before doing so, let us invoke the Supreme Lord with a prayer. Please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So everyone can hear me okay? So we're going to continue, I believe this is a continuation of our reading of the Bhagavad Gita. And we're in the 10th chapter. Chapter is entitled The Opulence of the Absolute. And we're going to be reading the 14th verse. So please open your books. Everyone has found there'll be different pages in different books, so I can't tell you the page, but it is the 10th chapter. And is the 14th verse. And we begin Sarvam. Everyone's found it? 10th chapter. In this book it's page 525. I don't know what it would be. What is it? 437. Try 437. Okay? Because we're going to repeat this verse together. That is for our benefit to repeat Krishna's words. How many here understand Sanskrit? You know Sanskrit? You know Sanskrit? You know Sanskrit? You know Sanskrit? Look at this. I know some Sanskrit from reading the Bhagavad Gita, that's all. But that's about all I know. So you're blessed, you can understand what you're saying very well. But we have the synonyms as well. In fact, this is something I just learned from my godbrother, Vaisheshika Prabhu, was visiting New York. And I thought this was a nice idea, that we first say the synonyms before we chant the verse. So then when you're chanting the verse, you'll know something of what you're actually saying. So that's what we're going to do. Okay? Is that all right? Okay. So everyone's found the verse. So we're going to first off, we're going to say what the words mean, and then we'll chant the verse together. So I'll repeat the words and you repeat after me. Sarvam, all. Etat, this. Ritam, true. Manye, I accept. Yat, which. Mam, unto me. Vadasi, you tell. Keshava, O Krishna. Na, never. He, certainly. Te, your Bhagavan, O personality of Godhead, Vyaktim, revelation, Viduhu, can know, Devaha, the demigods, not, nor, Danavaha, the demons. So now all together. Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Someone else like to lead? Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Sarvametad manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Sarvametad manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Ladies? Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. All right. Sarvam etad ritam manye Yanman vadasi Keshava Nahite Bhagavan Vyaktim Vidurdeva Nadhanava. So the translation: O Krishna, I totally accept as true all that you have told me. Neither the demigods nor the demons, O Lord, can understand your personality. Purport. Arjuna herein confirms that persons of faithless and demonic nature cannot understand Krishna. He is not known even by the demigods. So what to speak of the so-called scholars of this modern world? By the grace of the Supreme Lord, Arjuna has understood that the supreme truth is Krishna, and that he is
the perfect one. One should therefore follow the path of Arjuna. He received the authority of Bhagavad Gita. As described in the 4th chapter, the parampara system of disciplic succession for the understanding of Bhagavad Gita was lost, and therefore Krishna re-established that disciplic succession with Arjuna, because he considered Arjuna his intimate friend and a great devotee. Therefore, as stated in our introduction to Gita Upanishad, Bhagavad Gita should be understood in the parampara system. When the parampara system was lost, Arjuna was selected to rejuvenate it. The acceptance by Arjuna of all that Krishna says should be emulated. Then we can understand the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And then only can we understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So this verse that we've read together brings us to the point in this dialogue where Arjuna is expressing his confidence that he is beginning to appreciate who Krishna actually is. The Bhagavad Gita has been translated. Prabhupada would speak on this quite often. So many people have translated the Bhagavad Gita. But when Prabhupada came to America, the book you have in your hand is called what? Bhagavad Gita as it is. He was making a point that all too often, most of the time, those who have translated the Bhagavad Gita have presented Krishna as what? A human that's speaking. Prabhupada especially used to call out one translator, very famous. You're all familiar probably with Dr. Radhakrishnan. Yes? I mean, those from India, you know who he is. He's one of the president of India at one time. Very deep scholar. And yet when he translated the verses that describe Manmana bhava mad bhakta madhyaji mam namaskuru ame vaishyashi. He was saying that when Krishna says me, think of me, he's not really talking about, him, Krishna, the person, but that all-pervading one truth that is within everything. That's what we must think about. The absolute truth which is everywhere. The absolute truth must be without any form, personality. That would restrict the truth. The truth is everywhere. And if you say the truth is here, in front, then he can't be here and everywhere. You're either here or you're everywhere, right? It doesn't come together. So again and again we find this idea in modern day particularly that the personality Krishna who is speaking here, the Bhagavad Gita, is simply some sort of a vehicle for the words to come out. Some sort of medium. Or maybe even what is it? There's a literary term. Not an allegorical person. There are some translations of the Gita in which not even Kurukshetra is real. Kurukshetra is described, the Kurukshetra is the body, and the Arjuna is the soul, and it's all a metaphor, an allegory. And the truth is something impersonal. The Prabhupada is stressing again and again, and here especially he is bringing our attention back to the point. Who is Krishna? Who is Krishna? Is Krishna simply this historical figure that is partakes in the Mahabharata war, or is Krishna some sort of mythological figure, a figure to just hang this story around? Is Krishna just a creation of our own desire to anthropomorphize the absolute? You've heard that term, anthropomorphize, meaning to take what is beyond human condition, beyond our ability to perceive, beyond our ability to understand, and try to bring it into something that we can grab hold of by giving it some human quality. So, in this perspective, it's considered that God, the creator of everything, God, the origin of everything, God, the all-powerful, God, the supreme being, God, the absolute truth, God that exists everywhere. We can't touch him. We can't connect. So let's put him in a personality. We can relate, and we'll call him Krishna, because Krishna is a nice name, right? It's a very appropriate name, isn't it? Some of you have studied Sanskrit, right? So you know what is Krishna. Krishna comes from the what is it? Akarshana, right? So to attract. So Krishna is the all-attractive, very perfect name for God. The all-attractive, the being that attracts us all. We're all attracted to God. We want God. When we don't get him, then we just and we begin to think, well, maybe he doesn't exist at all because he's not responding to me. You know, I've said, you know, God, okay, if you exist, then you better prove it to me. If you don't prove it to me, then well, okay, then I forget it. Because I'm the most important person in the universe. So if you don't prove yourself to me, then you must not exist. And how can I anyways accept that you exist when you don't? Where do I find you? Where are you? I can't see you. But for those who are, well, okay, I accept that you exist. I accept that there is some supreme, absolute, some source of some great energy, some great thing, the great spirit. In here, most of you are not from the India that Columbus was looking for. Here in America, there are other form of Indians, right? The Native Americans are somehow called Indians. Because Columbus thought they were Indians. Anyway, so he called them Indians. That was his mistake. But anyhow, the name stuck. But in their tradition, in the tradition of the Native Americans, there is the idea of, or the perception of the Great Spirit. The Great Spirit that is everywhere, that has all knowledge. So, to get in touch with that Great Spirit, let's imagine that that's a person. And let's call him Krishna. This is the thinking that has somehow infected the followers of the Vedas to a great extent. Many of you've just come from India. Have you just arrived, or where is Mahavir? Is he still here?
I've been here 4 years. My mom came in August.
Oh, okay. So India is very familiar to you. So you know the state of spirituality in India, and many of you know it as well. And we see that this idea that God is impersonal, that the absolute truth is without form, is very popular. But here, Prabhupada is drawing our attention. We must understand, no. Ultimately, that there is a personality of God. And that personality is Krishna. The Krishna that is speaking here, the Krishna that is standing in front of Arjuna, is God. It's the Supreme Being. We can understand this when we accept that Arjuna is qualified to see on our behalf. He's there. This is not something that is just happening in some sort of, virtual space. But it's physically going on. Arjuna is standing right there. He's seeing Krishna in front of him. He's perceiving Krishna. And he's saying this. What is he saying? He's telling us very directly, "Oh Krishna!" Not "Oh Brahman," "Oh what." He said, "Krishna, Krishna, you are standing in front of me." He says, "I totally accept as truth all that you have told me." This is where we must arrive at in our approach to the Bhagavad Gita. We have to come to this position. Arjuna has taken this, by the arrangement of Krishna, let us put it this way, by the arrangement of Krishna, Arjuna, who is one of Krishna's intimate associates, has come under this same kind of condition that we are ourselves in. He has, by Krishna's arrangement, he has come into this position of, what do I do? How do I move forward in this world where I'm faced with so many contradictory situations, that at the one side I have my duty, I'm supposed to do whatever duties I have, and on the other side I wonder, how will this benefit anyone? And then so many other doubts come in. Arjuna represents himself as a doubtful person, as a person filled with doubt. How many of us have found ourselves in the same situation? We come to a point and we begin to wonder, what is going on? Why do I exist? What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose? How can I be happy? Just questions and questions and questions. And no answers. And someone says one thing, another person says another thing, and we just filled with doubts. Where is the truth? This is Arjuna's situation. His doubts are mixed into a situation where he's confronted with having to do something he can't, that is appropriate according to, by his nature, his duty, but it's not making sense to him. It's not making any sense. Life is starting to just not make sense. How many of us have found ourselves in that situation? It's not making any sense. Why? And Arjuna is like we may have been. He's come to this place and he's come to Krishna. And he's turned to Krishna. And now he's, Krishna, save me. Save me. I'm drowning. How many of us have been in that? Drowning. Mahaprabhu prays like that. Hari Nanda Tanuja Kinkaram. He says, Ai Nanda Tanuja. Krishna Nanda Tanuja. I am Kinkaram. Kinkaram, I am your servant. But Patita Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddho. I'm fallen. I'm drowning. I'm drowning in an ocean. An ocean of birth and death. Getting old. Getting sick. Losing. Getting dark, becoming painful. And I'm drowning. I'm drowning. There's nothing in sight. There's nowhere to hold on anymore. There's no place to just pull myself out. I am drowning. I am calling to you, save me. Save me. This is the mood of Arjuna. Save me. And Krishna does that. He saves Arjuna. He pulls him out, step by step, verse by verse. And now Arjuna feels, I am saved. I am saved by you. What even the demigods have not been able to appreciate, you've revealed to me. So this is also our great grace, that we have the opportunity to experience the same salvation that Arjuna is experiencing, and to know Krishna by hearing his words with faith, with attention, and then applying them in our lives, doing, acting, following the actions of Arjuna. We can come to know Krishna as the Supreme Personality of God. So I was told to speak for this much time and give some time for us to have some discussion, because it's not just that I should sit here and I should talk, but we're here together as a sangha. We're here for the same purpose. And if we all share a little bit, some reflections, something that came to your mind while we were talking and discussing this verse, or perhaps a question. Really, Hare Krishna.
Comment on the question.
Good.
Comment is that in the Judaic tradition, originally they had a concept of God having a personal form. And then about 1,500 or 1,000 years ago, the great sage in the Judaic tradition arose, Moses Maimonides. And he said, can't accept this literally because God is obviously unlimited, form is limited, therefore he can't have a form. And since that time, the mainline Judaism is God is form. So it's not just those who follow the Vedic tradition that are afraid of that same logical fallacy.
Yes.
Here's my question. So here Arjuna is saying, I accept what you're saying, Krishna. You're the Supreme Personality of God. And then later at the conclusion he'll say, Akarishe Vachanam Bhava. I'll do what you say. So I can intellectually accept what Krishna is saying. I can accept that he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But my emotions and often my actions aren't in line with my intellectual acceptance. For example, so Krishna says, Mandalam Bhaktoda, as you said. So even when I sit down and chant japa, I don't think of Krishna. My mind's all over the place. What to speak of my actions in other ways? My question is, what do? I'm accepting what Krishna says, but I'm not acting as if I'm accepting that, even though intellectually I am.
So first, thank you for bringing up this common issue that, practically speaking, all religions in the world today are facing the same issue. We find Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra. We offer a prayer to our Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, with words that he in fact composed for us. He said, Nirvishesha sunyavadi paschatadeshatarine. He Gauravani pracharine nirvishesha sunyavadi paschatadeshatarine. That by spreading the teachings of Gauranga, that this tendency of nirvishesha, of seeing the absolute only in an impersonal way, or worse, in sunyavadi, the idea that ultimately there's nothing. That this particularly infects the Western world, but we see that it infects the Eastern world just as much. And it infects every tradition, practically speaking, today. Every tradition, because of the influence of this, of so-called science and logic, people are unable to grasp the idea that simultaneously God can exist in an unlimited way in everything that exists, and at the same time have a form, have a personality. Or I should say, unlimited personalities. So thank you for sharing that. But then the question comes. So the question there is, how is it that even after accepting Krishna's words, we find it difficult to act upon it consistently? We keep
becoming distracted by the material world. There are many answers, possible answers to this. The first answer that comes to my mind, and all of you are welcome to share your own perceptions and realizations about this, because I imagine that most of us, I mean, I certainly have the same issue, will sympathize with Murali's problem, because we have the same issue. We hear Krishna, and Krishna is telling us, surrender, sarvadhamam pratyaja, mamekam saranam braja. He's telling us to surrender to Him, to simply manmana bhava madbhakta madhyaji namaskaru. Just think of Him. Always think of Him. Yad juhoshi, yad ashnashi, yad karoshi, jatashina. Give everything to Him. He's given us in the instruction what we should do. Be my devotee. Worship me. Give everything to me. Serve me. Go on with your duty, but do it in consciousness of me. The instructions are very clear. And yet, we find ourselves distracted. Our minds become distracted. We're told, think of me always. Right? What is it? Maya Shakti. How does that verse go? Anyway. No, Maya Shakti. Be attached to me only. So we hear all this, and yet we're distracted. We're pulled to the material energy. The fact is that we are conditioned souls. We are all spiritual beings here in this room, in this universe, in every atom. We're all spiritual entities. The fact that we're aware, the fact that we are conscious, means that we are spirit. That's not conscious. That's material energy. Everyone in this room, there's others in this room that we don't see, but they may have some consciousness of what's going on. There may be higher beings in this room that we don't see either. They have bigger consciousness. But at least the ones that we see each other here, right? We're all sitting together, we're face to face, and we all know that we're not robots, right? I mean, is any robots here? You're in a robot in the room? Please raise your hand. Of course, if you were a robot, you would know just what to do, and you wouldn't raise your hand and say, I'm not a robot. How do we know? Now, we all know. We know that we're not robots. And we assume that everyone else is also not a robot. That's reasonable. So we're all living beings, aware, conscious beings. But we have a problem. We all have a problem. We, somehow or other, have become attached to this material world with a desire to enjoy it. And that desire, that an attachment has been with us for so long. In fact, it's described as anadi, without a beginning. So the result is that we're bound, we're tied, wrapped up, entangled in this world. So to become free of it, takes time. It takes time. And as we're practicing, as we perform our sadhana, and what you're describing is, okay, Krishna asks us to think of Him. Now, so we try to think of Krishna, and then what happens?
our job, our family, our government, I don't know, our politics. Something comes in and says, think of me. Why, wait a minute. I'm pretty important too. In fact, I'm more important. Because, I control your sense gratification. So, better think of me. Because if you don't think of me, you're not going to get any sense gratification. You're going to feel miserable. So think of me. Or worse, you're going to suffer in some way because you forgot to pay the electric bill. So better think about it. So like that, the world keeps pushing itself into our consciousness. And where's the space? How can we think of Krishna when we have so many things we have to do, job, family, this, that, everything. How can we think of Krishna? So we sit down, we carve out some time. Say, now I'm going to think of Krishna, I'm going to chant Krishna's names, I'm going to perform this japa meditation, I'm going to think about Krishna, and what happens? We're distracted. We can't even sit still. We can take a little comfort in the fact that we're not alone in this problem. Even Arjuna said, how can I do this? My mind is like the wind. How can I control it? So we can take comfort in that, but that doesn't mean that we give up. We have to keep trying. And not just trying. Very soon we're going to be approaching Damodar month. Right? And the Leela of Damodar, I'm sure someone will be speaking on that perhaps next Sunday, because that's the first day. The Leela of Damodar involves many, many lessons, but one of the key lessons that is pointed out by our acharyas, all of you are familiar with the story, I believe, of Damodar, how Krishna was very naughty, and Mother Yashoda got to the end of her rope, so to speak. And she decided to bind him up, and so that he wouldn't run away, because he was at the point that Krishna was, first of all, she was threatening him with a stick, and then Krishna became so afraid, and things were going on, and now Mother Yashoda is thinking, now he's just going to run away, and then he'll be even more trouble, so I better, or he'll do something really naughty. I just have to, and I've got to do my service to him by cooking, etc., etc. So I'm going to just tie him up here for a little bit, so he cools down. Time out. And as we all know, Mother Yashoda, every time she tried to tie the knot, it was short by 2 fingers. And the acharyas tell us what those 2 fingers represent. Who knows? Who wants to share? Exactly. Okay. Yes, Madhuri? The mercy of the Lord. The first is the effort, and this other finger is the grace of Krishna. So we have to put out our effort. We have to try. We have to keep practicing. But we also have to pray for the grace of Krishna. And we have to expect that. It will come on his time and his schedule, so to speak, for our best interests. So that's one answer. Actually, there are others. That's one answer. It's our conditioning. It's our habits. We have to practice. Anyone else? I think we're out of time almost. No, it's 5 o'clock. So, yes, Prabhu.
Okay. Maybe a question, not a comment, but a humble request. Because we have seen Prabhupada, can you please share us some of the past times?
Well, I'm trying to think of something that would be. Well, I'll share one interaction which had a great lesson in it. So I'll share that one. This was 1973 or 74. I'm, of course, a very mature 23-year-old. Maybe 23, 24 years old. But, in ISKCON, we get lots of responsibility in those days. We were getting a lot of responsibility at very young ages. So I was given a task to raise money for ISKCON Food Relief, which was the effort in Mayapur, particularly, and in Mumbai and other parts of India, to distribute prasadam to the poor and the needy. Particularly in Mayapur, this was the time of Bangladesh. The Bangladesh war had just either was going on or just finished, and so there were a lot of refugees that had come across the border from Bangladesh, well, East Pakistan, and became Bangladesh. And there was a lot of need, and the devotees in Mayapur were distributing prasadam. So I was asked to try to raise some money. So I thought, well, let me try to get some money from corporations. And I thought, well, the corporations are not going to understand Krishna and all of that, So I rented an address on 42nd Street, I think it was. So I would have a different address, and I made a letterhead that just said ISKCON at the top and the address at the bottom. So then I got a suit, an ill-fitting suit from Orchard Street. Really knows Orchard Street. Anyway, I don't know what kind of figure I cut, but I never got to. I mean, I tried. I went to some offices. I presented some letters, and so nothing ever happened. But anyhow, I made some attempt. So Prabhupada came to New York around that time, and I'm in my office upstairs, and I think it was Brahmananda came up and said, "Prabhupada wants to see you." And he kind of gave me the hint that I was in trouble. Wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I came into Prabhupada's room in New York, Henry Street, and I saw this letterhead on his table. And he asked me, "So you have done this?" Something like that. And I said, "Yes." So where is International Society for Krishna Consciousness? Where is Founder Acharya? He was saying, this is not what we do. And I apologized, and he asked me, so you won't do this again? Yes. So he was making a point. This is around this same time. During this period, he actually asked all of his centers. He asked that there be a amendment made to the society's documents everywhere that stated that he's the founder Acharya of ISKCON. And because he had some concern. He had some concern that the movement was growing, the society was growing, and he had some experience in India with his godbrothers being, perhaps not fully accepting that ISKCON was his creation, and they had, some people had their eyes on ISKCON. So he wanted to establish that, and so that was a lesson for me, and it's a lesson for all of us, that when we speak of ISKCON, this society that we are all participating in here, we are all members, I believe. Maybe some of you are just visiting, not yet. Feeling yourself a member of the ISKCON society. But I think most of you are members of ISKCON. And our ISKCON, our society, is very much established on this principle that we have a founder acharya who is always going to be our founder acharya. He is our guiding light. It's his value system. People, recently this came to me, because often we hear about we have to embrace the mood and mission of Prabhupada. I've probably had trouble with the term mood, because I didn't think that was really what we mean. And it came to me, but I think what's really meant when we say that is we need to embrace his values. The values that Srila Prabhupada held. Many of you, I think, work in companies and corporations, and perhaps many of you have in your company a value statement. And how many of you work in a company that has a value statement? Yeah? You have a value statement, and that statement says something like, we value honesty and integrity and transparency, various different things like that. Well, Srila Prabhupada had certain values that were based on the values of Krishna's teachings in Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's value system. But he molded that to fit the society, the mission of spreading Krishna consciousness in this world. So he had a certain set of values. Sometimes that's paraphrased as books are the basis, utility is the principle, preaching is the essence, and purity is the force. So these are values. So our society has this. We have a value system, we have a mission, and this is all established by our founders, our founder Acharya. And so we have to always recognize that and make it a rock, like Jesus did. He said, St. Peter, on this rock I establish my church. So our rock is Srila Prabhupada.
Can we also say that succeeding generations will also always have a relationship directly with you?
Yes, yeah, it's the same. In this, as it goes, I mean that same foundation. It's just like when you build a building on a foundation. The foundation is not there just for the first story and the second story. It's there for the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, as far up it goes. And this is a foundation that can hold 10,000 years of generations of devotees. It's such a foundation, such a strong foundation, such a deep and strong foundation that we can expect it to hold generation after generation after generation, and all coming down, supported by that foundation, which is itself supported in the foundation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sampradaya. Hare Krishna. Hari Hari. Thank you, Hare Krishna. I'll see you next year when we come back. We're going back to India, my wife and I.